Hi, welcome back. This is our pre-algebra lesson on different types of angles. Today we're going to identify and describe these types of angles: complementary, supplementary, vertical, adjacent, and non-adjacent angles. So adjacent angles are angles that share the same vertex. They share one side, but they don't overlap each other. All right, so if we're looking, we see that we have this angle A, B, and C. And we identify the angles by the rays and starting with our outside corner. So this is angle A, B, and C, and it is adjacent to angle C, B, and D. So let's go ahead and write that angle down. So we're saying angle A, B, and C is adjacent to angle C, B, and D. And it's important to know that the way that we label our angles is when we're talking about corresponding angles, that the angle letters are in the same place for each type of angle. So angle A corresponds to angle C, part B corresponds to the other part B, and part C corresponds to part D. So we can see that they are indeed adjacent to each other, that this angle right here is next to or touching this angle right here. And they share this vertex down here, and they share a common side. So they share the vertex, they share that vertex, and they share this common side. All right, and just like this other angle, if we look at it, we have angle EFG, so we have angle EF and G, and it is adjacent to angle GFH. And again, we can see that the common vertex is right there, F, and the side that they share next to each other is G. So they are adjacent angles that share the same vertex and share one side but do not overlap. Go ahead and pause and copy this into your flipbook. Great. Let's talk about complementary angles now. We can see the word complementary, what angles complement each other. Now, there's a few different things happening with this set of angles. We see we have angle L, L, M, and N, and it is next to angle N, M, and P. Okay, and let's say that we wanted to identify some of the measurements. So let's go ahead and say that the measurement here, the measurement of this angle, let's say that that is 40 degrees. So we're going to say that's 40 degrees. So the measure, we're going to say M, the measure of angle, we're going to use that notation, the measurement of angle L, M, and N is 40 degrees. Okay, and then if we look at the other angle, angle NMP, let's say that the measurement of this angle, so the measuring from one ray to the other ray, this one is 50 degrees. Okay, so the measurement of angle NMP now is equal to 50 degrees. So several different things are going on. We can say that both of these angles, since they share that common vertex, so we just talked about that, they share a common vertex, they share a common side. So if that's true, then we can say that these angles are adjacent to each other. So they are adjacent because they share the side and they share a vertex. And we can add them up if we said the angle L, M, and N plus angle N, M, and P. If we add those two angles up, that equals 90 degrees. And a 90 degrees angle, remember 90 degrees angle is also equal to what we call a right angle. So how do we see in geometry, how do we see that a right angle is usually made? Well, usually if it's a right angle, they make a square mark in the corner. So they would make a square shape right there in the corner to indicate that that makes a right angle. So if it's a right angle and equals 90 degrees, and there's two angles together, then we call those complementary angles. Two angles that are add up to be 90 degrees. Now they can be adjacent, as we see in this case, but they do not have to be. They can also be non-adjacent angles as long as we know that the measurement adds up to be 90 degrees. And that's the key point, that complementary angles add up to be 90 degrees. So go ahead, I'd like you to pause the video now and add this to your flipbook. All right, well now we're looking at our different set of angles, and in this case we have supplementary angles. So when we're looking at supplementary angles, again, we're looking at a pair of angles, two angles that we can do something with. What one angle is a supplement to the other angle. All right, so let's say for this purpose, let's say that this measurement of this angle is, let's say it's 60 degrees, okay? So this, we're going to say that from RST, that the measurement of angle RST is approximately 60 degrees, okay? So therefore then, let's say if we were trying to measure the other angle, if we were trying to measure this angle over here, so that would be the measurement of angle TSU, and what would it equal? Well, today we're going to say that this measurement is equal to 120 degrees. So this one, the measurement of angle TSU now is equal to 120 degrees. And so if we put the measurements of both of these together and we were trying to say, okay, what is the measurement if I added this angle and I added this other angle? So I went from all the way around from RS, segment RS, all the way over to segment SU. What would the measurements be if I added those together? Well, if I added all of those together, it would equal 180 degrees. So supplementary angles are two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. And we see that information shared with us down below. Okay, supplementary angles, again, are two angles that will add up to be 180 degrees. We can't have more than two angles, can't have less than two angles. Again, just like complementary angles, they can be adjacent or non-adjacent as long as we know the measurements, and they add up to be 180 degrees. Now we also say another thing about this is that these two angles are what we call a linear pair, in that they form a straight line. If you notice that when you put the two angles together, the measurement from this side all the way around to the other side would make this straight line right here. So therefore we call supplementary angles a linear pair. Okay, go ahead and add this information to your notebook as well. Great. All right, the last type of angles that we have are what we call vertical angles. And right here what we see is we have two sets of parallel lines. And parallel lines, if you remember, simply mean that they are two lines that if they were extended on and on and on into their opposite directions forever and ever and ever, they would never cross each other. So we call those parallel lines. But what would happen if I took one of these lines and I flipped it? So I brought it and I turned it sideways like this. All right, so now all of a sudden my two vertical lines, or my two parallel lines, are now intersecting. So when they're intersecting, all of a sudden now we've identified that we have four new angles. And these angles, for today's purposes, I'm going to just number them. I'm going to say that we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you have two lines that intersect each other, they create vertical angles. So when we look at these angles, we would notice that angle 1, the measurement of angle 1 from here to here, is the exact same measurement as it is from here to here for measurement 3, for angle 3. So the measurement of angle 1 is congruent, and remember, congruent is equal with our little noodle on top, the measurement of angle 1 is congruent to the measurement, the measurement of angle 3, and that makes them vertical. Just like if we were to take the measurement of angle 2, and the measurement of angle 2 would also be congruent to angle 4. So the measurement of angle 2 is congruent to the measurement of angle 4. And what makes them vertical is that they're opposite each other. We can see that they're opposite, but they all do share a common vertex. So they share a common vertex right here, but they don't share any common sides, and they are not adjacent to each other. All right, so vertical angles are two non-adjacent, that's very important because they're opposite, and they're found by intersecting lines. The vertical angles now are congruent to each other, and they're opposite of each other. So that makes them vertical. Go ahead, pause the video, and add this to your flipbook. All right, now that we've talked about all these different types of angles, I'm going to move this out of the way. For your turn today, I'd like for you to go ahead, copy all 6 of these problems down. Let me add the numbers to them. I'd like you to copy down, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'd like you to copy these 6 different diagrams down into your notebook, and I'd like for you to identify 2 things. One is what type of angle or angles are shown for each set, and 2, what is the missing angle measurement, if you can identify it. All right? All right, very good. We'll talk tomorrow. If you have any questions, I look forward to helping you with them. Bye-bye.